Hi, everyone, and welcome to this homepage and to this video, which is just to kind of orient you and welcome you to the class, Art 30C, Ceramics History, Culture, and Practice. Rather well named because we will be exploring four great ceramic traditions. We'll explore the history of them, the culture from which these practices emerged, and finally, we'll learn how to do them. We'll actually make the pieces from each of these four great traditions. And what we'll be doing over this semester will be fantastic. It's a great, if you're new to ceramics, it's a great way to begin your ceramic journey and to learn some really foundational techniques. If you've had ceramics before, it will allow you to apply your already somewhat developed abilities or very developed abilities to some really profound traditions throughout the world. So it's a very exciting class, and I'm really excited to be teaching it. It's unique because this is the first time that it will be available as a hybrid. I've taught it several times completely online, but I'm happy to say we're going back face to face with this class. So it will be hybrid in that your history and culture learning will be online. And in fact, even the practice section, there'll be lots of demonstration videos that hopefully you will view before coming to class every Monday. And we will meet every Monday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., where we will actually take on the studio practice of making these various ceramics. So that's how, just to kind of show you how this works, you will be visiting the online Canvas structure where this video is existing and going through each of the modules and learning about these ceramic traditions, the history and the culture, and then watching the videos I provided on actually how to make these various things. And then on Mondays we'll meet, I will demonstrate further how things are made, you can see them, and then I will be able to supervise your own construction of these pieces that you will make at the studio at Solano Community College. So I'm very excited for it. Let me show you a little bit about these pots. Behind me are a couple of, these two are African pots, and you can kind of see them there. The one with the lizards on it right about here, that lizard motif is quite popular in some African traditions. These I call spherical African pots because we actually make them in a really unique fashion. Let me pick one up here. This one has a really fine texture, and you might work a little smaller than this. This is quite a large pot, as you can see. But the way we start working is we build upside down. So we start, and we're going to be using a method called coil building, and we build from the middle of the pot towards the bottom of the pot. And we'll build this kind of dome shape, and we'll put a circular foot on it on the bottom. You can see this one's a little bit, it's been raining, so there's a little bit of muck on there, but you can see we put a foot on it, and then at just the right time, and timing is essential, we take the pot, and it's now a hemisphere. It's kind of a half shape. We flip it over, and we continue the coil building to do the last half of the pot, and we close it up here and then put a lip on it. Sometimes we put in a more extended neck, as you can see is the example in the lizard pot behind me. You can see that neck goes up and even has a handle on it, which is an option. All those are choices you get to make. You're required to make some kind of spherical shape, and it can be elongated kind of egg shape, or it can be completely rounded. Those are your choices. And you also get to choose what kind of texture, and this is a texture that I've made. I think I actually make this pot in a video demonstrated for you. This is a technique I've developed called score and snap, I think is what I call it. But you'll learn how to make this texture if you like this. You'll see, I think I actually make that lizard pot on video as well, that you'll see that in the class as well. So this is the first one, African spherical pots. And the African pottery tradition is enormous. It's throughout Africa, and these spherical pots were created for function. They were used for water. They were used for beer. They were used for storage of food and wine and other liquids. And so they were very, very functional and very important to the thriving of a community. And so they developed a very remarkable capacity. And you'll see throughout that module on African spherical pots, I've created many lectures and many beautiful there's some films available, and you can really get a sense for the remarkable tradition coming out of West Africa, somewhat Northern Africa, Central Africa, a little bit of Southern Africa, and even Eastern Africa. Different cultures have slightly different approaches to the pottery, but one of the things that's quite remarkable is the spherical form. So that's what I want us to work with in the African pots. Next, we jump continents and we come to our very own home. But around the period of 700 AD, from 700 to about 1100, there was a tribe called the Mimbres people living in southern New Mexico. And they worked on these you can see they're very kind of narrow, flat kind of plate bowl shapes. And then what they did, now these are not traditional designs quite, these are more my personal designs, but they have a Mimbres quality to them in that they always had a very ornate edge and a very kind of detailed and ornate kind of edge. And then some almost geometric drawing of something related to their culture. Here I've done a strange kind of target in a female form, but they would do animals and they would do just pure geometry, all kinds of wonderful things. And it was black drawing on a white background. So that's what we'll be doing for Mimbres. Here's another example. This is a slip on this one that is fairly, it's got a bit of a crawl to it. You can see that kind of crawling texture. And again, a female form with a bird on her shoulder for reasons I can't quite explain. But here you can see this is a hand-built form. These are relatively simple to make. I will demonstrate them to you in class, and you can also see me making them in a number of different ways in the videos. So that would be the second thing we're going to be doing. We're going to be working on this wonderful tradition. The Mimbres are known primarily through their pottery, and that's something that happens in many cultures throughout history, is that pottery is forever. I mean, it lasts 30,000 years. Your grandchildren's 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 grandchildren will still be able to see the pottery that you make. So do good work. But that's the thing with the Mimbres. We don't know. They disappeared in the early 1100s, and no one knows exactly where they went. I think perhaps one of the theories is that there was drought and food resources dried up, and so they migrated and they melded into other societies. Before that, they had very little interaction with existing cultures. The Anasazi to the north, the Hohokam to the west. They didn't have much interaction with them. They stayed in their little valley and they made these astonishing pots. And I've offered many examples in the lectures and films in the module. So that's the second kind of ceramics. Now the third kind, and we'll start to see a pattern here. Here's the third kind, and this is a Japanese style tea bowl for the Japanese tea ceremony. And we'll be doing this, a black raku tea bowl. For the tea ceremony, and we'll talk a lot about the tea ceremony. And we'll be able to make one of these together, maybe 2 or 3 of these each. And they're a wonderful, the tea ceremony is a complex and wonderful subject. It's 700, 800 years old out of Japan, the early roots. Really in the mid 1500s, it became a very strong, powerfully innovative process of it was a combination of serving tea and meditating, coming out of Zen Buddhism, and as onto modern day, it goes from a kind of spiritual Zen Buddhist practice all the way to it's used as a sort of finishing school for young Japanese women. Men enjoy the tea ceremony. It's been used as this kind of social, prestigious kind of activity, all kinds of things that you'll learn about the tea ceremony. We're actually going to read a book about it. And it is a topic that is really rich and very complex. And so you'll see a pattern. The African traditions, there's so many tribes. I mean, there's a lot of African countries, and each of those countries has just sometimes hundreds of tribes and cultures in them, just remarkable numbers that don't necessarily respect the borders of the actual nations. They may cross borders. So it's a really rich and complex tradition. And it's often obscured because people just don't know everything there needs to be known about it. Then you go from Africa to the Mimbres, where very little is known because they kind of just disappeared in the early 1100s. And then we go to Japanese tea ceremony. Like African pottery, there is thousands and thousands and thousands of books written on this in every language on the planet. So you'll learn more about that. And we'll hopefully, I think we'll be able to have some tea together. I'll be able to demonstrate a little bit of the tea ceremony with you. I really look forward to that. And then finally, I love each of these forms and I practice them all, and I find them really inspiring. And you just walking in the footsteps of ancient potters and practicing what they practiced, you learn so much. And then the final is the face jug tradition or the jug heads. Here's one that is fairly traditional in its makeup, in its design, in its kind of format. And I will show you how to make these. This is actually about 6.5 inches tall, 7 inches. This is about the scale that the originals were made. And this tradition, this face jug tradition, is generated in America in 1858, just about when America itself was early becoming established. So about, I guess America had been around, what, 75 years, 80 years. And this was invented by slaves and by a slave that was kidnapped from Africa in 1858, taken to Georgia, and then was migrated, was sold to a potter in Edgefield, South Carolina. And you'll be reading about a slave potter named Dave. We have a book on Dave too that we'll be reading called Carolina Clay, just to get deeper into that world. And what you start to learn is that, like Mimbres, there's a lot of obscurity for very different reasons about African potters, because there's lots of reasons that we can guess about. One that I suspect is that people didn't really write histories of or pay much attention to what slaves did because they were not considered human. They were not considered people. They were possessions. It's a horrible part of our history. And what I think we learn, what's so remarkable, is that here's this fellow in 1858 who was kidnapped, taken from everything he knew and loved, and brought to America. And somewhere in all of that horror and chaos and upheaval, he creates this fabulous form of ceramics. And we will be walking in his footsteps and learning from his example in making these face jugs. Face jugs are made today still in South Carolina and Georgia, North Carolina. And I think they are made, I'm going to grab you one more example here. They are made by white and black potters alike. And so here's another one. Now you can see this is quite large, and I will demonstrate how to work with these on this scale, but you may want to make one slightly larger than the example I showed you before, but you may not need to go quite this big. You'll be able to decide what you want to do. This one is a little less traditional in that it displays some of my ideas about abstract human faces and how to sculpt them and create them. So this is a little bit of a different approach here. And this one, as you can see, has some big handles and such. So a lot of fun. So a lot of fun to be had in this kind of work. So those are the 3 things, or the 4 things we're going to be doing, from African spherical pots to Mimbres pots to black raku tea bowls to these wonderful face jugs. That's what we'll be ending up doing. We'll get our clay will be available to you from the bookstore. You can purchase it simply from the bookstore. Our tools, there are tools available at the bookstore. You can also get tools. We have loaner sets that you can use in the lab when you're there. So if you don't if you don't want to spring for the tools right away, wait to see if you really like this, you can do that. You can borrow our tools while you're in the lab. So we have that. And then, so a couple of things. You may have noticed we have a global pandemic going on. And for 1,000 complicated reasons, we have decided to allow face-to-face instruction again. And I'm mixed about it. I love teaching and I love the fact that I'll be able to work with you directly. And at the same time, I'm so frustrated by being required and really needing to ensure our safety as best we can during this time. So we will be practicing safe practices in COVID. The school has a mandate that you are either vaccinated or that you are testing twice a week. So we meet once a week, so that's kind of easy. Hopefully you're all going to be vaccinated and you just register that with the school, easy peasy, and you just come to class. If for some reason, and there's some people, for instance, who medically, they cannot be vaccinated because it would actually harm or even kill them. They would have an adverse reaction to the vaccine. There are very, very small number of people that have that situation. And so that might be your situation. In that case, you need to be tested before class. So you would have to meet me at the door of class with a negative test every week. So that's how we'll be dealing with that. We will also be wearing face masks, vaccinated or unvaccinated. When we're in the studio, we're wearing a face mask. And that's a full wearing of the face mask. I'll be doing it too. It'll, covering the nose and the mouth. Not this thing doesn't, and then the famous chin mask. We don't do that. We don't do this. We do the full coverage. It's kind of, I feel like, anyway, so we'll be wearing a face mask. This is our new reality. And I'm hoping that this reality will be something that's temporary, though it sure is lasting a lot longer than I had hoped for. So this video is on your home page, and I want you to go through this page very thoroughly and do all the things that it asks you to do. If there's a discussion that it wants you to participate in and give us a little information about yourself. And there's a various number of requests that we make if you go through this homepage that are pretty easy to do and get you used to using this format if you've never used this Canvas format before. And there's down at the bottom of the class, there's a whole tutorial section. If you've never done it and you need some training, you can go through that. That's an optional tutorial available for those that you are new to this form. And 2 years ago, I was brand new to it as well. So I have a lot of empathy. If you have any questions about any of this, anytime, you can always reach me at mark.lancet@solano.edu. Again, marc.lancet@solano.edu. That's how you can reach me anytime. And of course, we will have office hours after class on Monday. We go from 1 to 4 in class, and then from 4 to 5, I'll have an office hour. And you can either get all your questions answered, you can bring up discussion, we can discuss the various traditions we're studying, or you can just stay and work an extra hour in class. So we'll be doing that after every Monday class. That'll be our office hours. So that's the other thing. So we get back on the COVID real quickly. We will be wearing face masks and we will be maintaining social distance. Not a lot of hugging this time, I'm sorry to say, but keeping our distance and trying to work a little bit further apart from each other on our tables and various things. So that's what we'll be doing. So we follow this homepage. And then once you've gone through this homepage, the way that you progress through the class is both by coming every Monday. That's a requirement. You come to studio and we work on the projects, but you also need to go through all of the modules and watch the lectures and watch the videos. And there's some reading and some discussion sections, and you want to participate in all of those. There's discussion in each one of the sections. And when you finish a project, you take a photograph of it and you put it you put it into your Canvas page as an assignment page, and I'll be showing you all that in the studio time. So that's what we're going to be doing. This is the class. I'm really excited to be working with you. I love just getting into the clay with you and teaching you this. I think you'll find new things out about your capacity to create, about what it is like to work with clay, about working in an artistic community. And I think we're going to have a wonderful semester together. There's some excitement. There's a couple of big conferences coming up. The biggest of all ceramic conferences in the world is coming to Sacramento. It's called the National Council for Education in Ceramic Arts. That's NCECA, and that's March 16th through 19th. And I'm going to really encourage you to pony up some cash. I'll see if there's some scholarships you can apply for, but that'd be a beautiful way to just get a full picture of the whole wild world of ceramics. So that's happening. The other thing that's happening is something more focused on ceramic sculpture called the California Conference for the Advancement of Ceramic Arts. And that's happening at the end of April in Davis. So we'll also be hearing more about that. We also may have a couple of guest artists coming in that you may have an opportunity to come see their work or hear them talk about their work. One hopefully from Germany, and then one from the wilds of Minnesota is still in the works. We'll see how that goes. So that's some of the plans. I'm very excited. So until we see each other, stay safe, and we're just going to make lots of art. Really looking forward to working with you.